Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Michelangelo Messeri. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I am an assistant director in student engagement in undergraduate student life for Columbia College and Columbia Engineering. First, I want to congratulate you and welcome you to the Columbia community. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, we are thrilled to welcome you to Columbia and to campus. This webinar is the very first in our NSOP 2021 summer webinar series, which spans two central themes: academics at Columbia and life as a Columbia student. Sessions will be a mix of Zoom meetings and webinars to help you transition to life on campus. This session and all sessions will be recorded and available on the Countdown to Columbia website within a week of the session airing live. Today, we will be holding an introduction to your first year academics at Columbia College and Columbia Engineering to kick off this week's theme of academics at Columbia. I would also like to point out that this session includes closed captioning, which you're able to turn on at the bottom of your screen. And actually, I don't know if I turned that on, so one moment, please. Don't know why. Oh, here we go. Perfect, and they are on now. So those are available if you'd like to turn them on for yourself. And at this time, I'd like to welcome all of the panelists to introduce themselves. Okay, so first we have Dean Holliba.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Holliba. I am the Dean of Academic Affairs for Columbia College. In the college, academic affairs encompasses academic advising, undergraduate research and fellowship opportunities, and most importantly, the undergraduate curriculum, which includes the core curriculum required of all students and the courses that make up a student's major or concentration. In essence, my job is to do everything I can to help make the academic experience of Columbia College students a very satisfying one, and I'm happy to be here to talk with you today.
Thank you. Next, we have Dean Brafman.
Thank you, and welcome to all our students. My name is Leora Brafman, and I'm Senior Associate Dean for Undergraduate and Graduate Student Affairs at Columbia Engineering. In this role, I oversee all aspects of the academic programs for our undergraduate and graduate students, and I work with faculty, committee on instruction, with regards to policy changes, curriculum innovations, and so on. In addition, one part of my role is to develop school-wide academic programs for our undergraduate students. For example, our annual Senior Design Expo, undergraduate research program, research symposium, summer research programs, and more. And I'm delighted to be here today and to welcome you as you join our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Brafman. Next, we have Dean Carrillo.
Hi, everybody. My name is Angie Cadillo. I'm Associate Dean in the Barrick Center for Student Advising. I'm one of the team of about 30 full-time professional academic advisors. We primarily guide students through their academic journeys at Columbia. This includes helping students with their course selection each term, choosing a major or concentration in Columbia College, or a major and possible minor in Columbia Engineering, and setting short-term and long-term goals while at Columbia and beyond. Each incoming student will be officially assigned an academic advisor from the Center for Student Advising this summer, who they'll work with up until they complete their undergraduate degree. We look forward to meeting with you all very soon during our one-on-one and group advising sessions to help you prepare for the upcoming fall term.
Thank you. We also have two current students with us today. So to start off, we have Emily.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emily. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the student leader coordinator for NSOP this year. So congrats for getting here. And I am majoring in political science and linguistics in Columbia College.
Thanks, Emily. We also have Jocelyn with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Jocelyn. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm also a rising junior in the School of Engineering. I'm studying biomedical engineering with a concentration in psychology.
Well, thank you so much, our lovely panelists, for joining us today and chatting with all of you about academics at Columbia. I am so excited to dive in. So we'll say goodbye to some of our panelists for now, but they will be back. So to start us off, simply, Dean Carrillo, can you give us an overview of what we can expect from the panel discussion today?
Sure, no problem. We will share a general overview of academic life at Columbia College and Columbia Engineering, along with highlighting various resources and supports that students can utilize to maximize their success at Columbia. Lastly, towards the end of this session, we will answer some of your questions. So we look forward to hearing what you have been thinking about as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dean Carrillo. As just said, after the panel discussion, we will be heading into a question and answer portion of this session. So while our panelists are speaking, I encourage you all to use the question and answer feature at the bottom of your Zoom window to ask any questions that you might have. There will probably be more questions than we can answer. And so if your question is an easy one that can be answered with a link, we may be able to send that link to you so you get the information that you need, but have no fear. If your question is not answered, there are many other sessions that are happening next week for academics at Columbia that will most likely will cover all the questions that you have. And if not, later on, we'll chat about how you can get some of those unanswered questions answered after all of our sessions next week in this theme. So to begin, I'd like to invite Emily and Dean Holliba back for our first question. Emily, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Michelangelo. First, when I was a Columbia College first year, even though I found the idea of having common ground with other Columbia students appealing, I was anxious about the core. For example, I love literature, but I was apprehensive about reading so many classic texts in literature humanities. I was nervous about my first college classes and what core classes, which are small and discussion-based, would look like. Plus, I was worried that the core would dominate my first year schedule and I wouldn't get to explore my interests. And secondly, speaking of my interests, one of my biggest uncertainties my first year was figuring out what I wanted to major in and whether double majoring would be possible for me. I knew I wanted to study political science, but I also love languages. So when I saw that there was an intro to linguistics class offered my first year, I decided to take it. I realized I enjoyed doing the homework for the class, and I thought that was a telling sign that I should double major. But as the fields are so different, I was worried that I couldn't fit all the requirements in with the core and wondered if the major concentration combo would be better for me. So Dean Holliba, it would be great if, in addition to speaking to what first years can anticipate with the core, you could also offer some guidance on how majors and concentrations work at Columbia and what to expect.
Thanks, Emily. You've touched on what are really the two major parts of the undergraduate education for a Columbia College student, the core curriculum and the major or concentration. And there's so much to say about each one, so I'll share just a few initial thoughts. So about the core curriculum, like Emily, I will focus on literature humanities, or Lit Hum, as it's commonly called on campus, in part because I myself teach Lit Hum, so I love to talk about it. First of all, it's true that there is a lot of reading. Like other core courses, Lit Hum is designed to give students the opportunity to trace the evolution of certain ideas over hundreds or even thousands of years. So we want to cover a lot of ground in Lit Hum or in any core course so that we can see how many other thinkers before us considered these ideas so that we have their ideas to consider as we develop our own points of view in our own context, in our own moment of time. Now, Emily's question in some ways has to do with how to handle so much reading. And this is a great question because students usually find that the workload in a Columbia class feels different from the workload in a high school class. When you have hundreds, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of pages to read each week, you can't possibly absorb the content of every single page you're reading. So you want to work with your instructors and your advisors to develop conscious strategies for approaching the workload in a core course or in any Columbia course. For example, in Lit Hum, it can help to begin your reading assignment with a set of specific questions in mind that you're going to answer as you read quickly through so many pages. This is what we often call active reading. And your professors can help you develop those questions, and your professors can give you guidance about how to approach the course material in a course. So, and when you develop conscious strategies for your workload, you're also learning really important skills. For example, how to take in a lot of information in a short period of time and how to analyze it for the specific points that are most valuable to you at the moment, which is a skill you'll use not only in all your other classes at Columbia, but in any career you pursue after Columbia. And another part of Emily's question about the core was about in-class discussions. And I will say students often tell me it can be intimidating and a bit nerve-wracking to start college and be expected to speak up in front of other people in class, to ask questions, to offer suggestions, to make observations, to perform your own analysis. And my advice to you is to be brave and try. Again, by doing so, you're learning really important skills. You're not having discussions and debates in class just so that you can state out loud what you already think about a particular piece of literature or philosophy or science or art or music. By discussing and debating your thoughts with other really bright students from so many different backgrounds, you're developing and articulating in more sophisticated and more precise ways how you view the world, and you're practicing and honing your point of view, not only so that you can explain it and debate it in the classroom, but also so that you can apply it and act on it and use it as a guide when you make decisions and when you engage with new groups of people for years to come. Again, these are skills that take practice, and the core classroom is the practice room for you and your classmates. So the thing to remember, I guess, is if Lit Hum or any other course in your first semester feels like a lot compared to what you're used to, that's because they're designed to be a lot. You should feel challenged. You should feel that you're encountering something different from what you've already done in high school. And that means you're learning new skills that will be very useful to you, but you're not expected to know already how to handle it. That's part of the learning process. So just be ready to ask your core curriculum professors for advice and for help. That is what they're there for. Okay, there's more I could say, but there was a second part of Emily's question I want to get to. So let me just encourage all of you to attend the webinar next Monday, July 19th, that will be dedicated to a discussion of core curriculum experience, and which will be led by my wonderful colleague, Larry Jackson. So part two, Emily also talked about the challenge of selecting her major. It's true that the choice of a major or concentration is a very important one, but I'm not saying that because I think it's a choice that is part of some kind of formula that will automatically lead to a particular degree, to a particular career, to a particular life. I think it's an important choice in your own development because when you choose a major or concentration, you're choosing an academic home and an intellectual community, which means your coursework and your research and your professors and your classmates will all help you think about the kind of questions you want to try to answer, the kind of problems you want to try to solve, the kind of work that you find deeply satisfying. So you're choosing a course of study that helps you understand the ways you think, the ways you work, and what your talents and affinities are that you want to develop and hone. It's a subject that keeps you wanting to learn more because it reflects the kind of work you want to do in the world. So at Columbia College, you'll have over 70 majors and about 50 concentrations to choose from. And I mentioned both majors and concentrations because you can earn your bachelor's degree at Columbia College with either a major or a concentration. Both majors and concentrations have been constructed by our faculty to offer students breadth and depth in a subject. So either one will deepen your understanding of a particular way of thinking and a way of working. A major allows students to do even more work and more research at the advanced level in a field. Most Columbia College students graduate with one major because they find that the entire core curriculum and all of the coursework for a major requires a lot of time. And they often want to leave some space in their schedules for elective courses that are in other areas of study that are just interesting to them. But some students, like Emily, will want to structure their interests around two formal programs of study. So they might have two majors, or maybe a major and a concentration, or just two concentrations. Again, this is a very personal choice, and you can make this choice after you learn more about what's available to you through the college. So then the question is, how do you learn about all these possible majors and concentrations? How do you learn about subjects you may never have encountered in high school, like linguistics, as Emily did? The good news is you have some time to learn before you make the decision. Students in the college declare a major or concentration in the spring semester of sophomore year. So you have several semesters to try out different courses, to talk to your academic advisors in the Barrick Center for Student Advising, to attend open houses and other events held by academic departments and programs, and most importantly, to talk with faculty. In particular, you'll want to talk to the faculty members in a department who have the title Director of Undergraduate Studies. We often call them DUS for brevity's sake. As their title suggests, they are the faculty members who advise students on the majors or concentrations in their department from start to finish. So here, I want to encourage you to attend another webinar next week on Thursday, July 22nd, when another wonderful colleague of mine, Ariella Lang, will host a discussion among 4 faculty members who are directors of undergraduate studies in fields ranging from the natural sciences to the social sciences to the humanities, and they will have even more advice for you on how to explore so many academic programs at Columbia and how to talk with faculty about the choices you have in front of you. So I've gone on for quite a bit, so I'll stop there. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Emily, for your great questions.
Thank you so much, Dean Holliba. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jocelyn and Dean Brofman.
Thank you, Emily and Dean Holliba. So while there is a lot of overlap in Columbia College and Columbia Engineering requirements and the first year looks a little different. So first, for the first 2 years, I had a lot of questions about how placement works for my introductory physics, chemistry, and math classes and when to take them. Second, I was excited to see how I can schedule in humanities core classes that engineering students share with the college. And lastly, I had a lot of questions about how I can explore interests outside of my major in the forms of minors and concentrations. So Dean Brofman, would you be able to speak on these a little bit and offer any other advice that you have about the first year curriculum for engineering students?
Thank you very much, Jocelyn. There are a lot of important questions there, and I will try to respond to them. As I am sure most of our students are aware, all first year C students begin their program with the required science courses with the math, chemistry, and physics. My first piece of advice as you think about your schedule for the fall semester is to balance your selection of these specific courses. Just because one might place into the more accelerated of these classes does not actually mean you must take all the accelerated classes. You will need a good strategy as you think about these courses to complete your problem sets and lab reports, which is part of the workload you will need to manage and balance. You will talk with your Center for Student Advising advisor, as Dean Carrillo mentioned, and keep in mind this balance. Your Center for Student Advising advisor will help you to understand how the placement works, whether it's through AP or whether it's through placement tests during the orientation period. While you're planning your fall schedule, you'll also want to allow for taking additional courses in another area of your interest. For example, whether it's a foreign language or music or art class or something from the liberal arts course. And this is also part of how you balance and create a varied program of studies. I would encourage you to bear in mind, I hope you were listening when Dean Holliba spoke about the core curriculum classes, in particular literature humanities, so that you take into account, if you are looking for one of those courses, the expectations and the readings and work that will go into those classes. You will receive specific information regarding placement in these different foundation courses from your Center for Student Advising advisor, but please do keep in mind my earlier remarks about balance. I also would just remind you that a fairly typical first semester schedule for engineering students includes 5 courses, and there really is no need to accelerate your schedule more than that. I want to talk just a little bit about learning about the different majors and so on. During your first year, you will all take the art of engineering, which is a wonderful opportunity for you to learn about the different C's departments and the different disciplines in engineering. You will also have opportunities to engage with student groups, with faculty, to get more insight into the different disciplines and the different pathways that majors might have. I encourage you to try different things, go to departmental seminars, see what they're doing, talk with faculty. Faculty love to talk to students about the work that they're doing. This will help you to further hone your engineering interests and will also help you to shape how you then select your major. By the time you select your major, which is in the fall of your sophomore year, we hope that you will have had exposure to different fields and that you will feel confident in making that choice. Jocelyn also asked a little bit about minors, how these differ from Columbia College minors, and what should C students think about. For C students, the minor is an opportunity to focus in either a liberal arts field or within a second department within the engineering school. Typically, the minor is an additional 5 to 6 classes above those required for graduation. Unlike in the college, C students must complete a major in order to graduate. You cannot graduate with just the minor. Right now, we have 23 liberal arts minors, and you can find all of them in the bulletin. And we also have minors in each of the engineering disciplines. Again, a reminder that this is an option. It's definitely not a requirement. But if there is something that you would love to explore, I encourage you to begin by taking an elective 1 or 2 courses in those fields to check out whether this really is where your interest lies. You can always add a minor later on in your academic program. In terms of additional advice for our incoming students about engagement outside of the classroom, there are so many different opportunities through student activities, through different programs, design challenges, departmental activities, and more that will be open to you. I encourage you during your first semester to look into some of the student clubs, go to some group meetings, stop by at faculty office hours to chat with them. Learn about what's on offer. Sign up for 1 or 2 things. As you find yourself more comfortable in the college setting, there will be many and continued opportunities for engagement, both on and off campus. We look forward to welcoming you onto the campus this fall, and I'm confident that our student groups and our faculty are eagerly awaiting the arrival of this incoming class, and we look forward to welcoming you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dean Brogman, for your responses. I will now bring back Emily and Dean Carrillo for the next question.
Thanks, Jocelyn. Something that I have found helpful with Columbia is that there are a lot of people on my team making sure I'm getting where I need to go. I've had meetings with my academic advisor to talk about registration strategies, with study abroad advisors to talk about in-person and virtual global opportunities, and with the heads of departments to talk about my academic goals. But I remember as a first year, I had a million questions, and knowing who to ask which questions was daunting. So, Dean Carrillo, can you provide some insight on the Center for Student Advising and what exactly a relationship with an academic advisor looks like? What is an academic advisor's role? How does one interact with them? And I'm sure a lot of incoming first years also have questions about what to expect when registering for classes. So perhaps it might also be useful to touch on the course selection process and how an academic advisor can help navigate that at the start of the school year.
Sure, no problem, Emily. I'll try to cover all of that in this time. As I mentioned at the beginning a bit, each incoming student will be assigned an academic advisor from the Center for Student Advising. You should all receive an email, hopefully by the end of next week, with the name and contact information of your academic advisor. You will work with this advisor throughout your time at Columbia. This is in addition to the directors of undergraduate studies that Dean Hollibaugh mentioned in the college, and faculty advisors and professional advisors within the School of Engineering in the academic departments. You will have access to before and after you declare your academic program or programs. You can meet with your academic advisor as frequently as you want to. We have an online appointment system which you can utilize to select appointment times that work with your schedule. Although students are not required to see us, we strongly encourage them to. Both the student and the advisor are responsible for the advising partnership. Building this advising relationship takes some time and effort. So whenever we reach out, we hope that you answer and begin to connect with us. The role of an academic advisor includes helping students create and accomplish manageable goals. We ultimately help students work through various options. We're not here to tell you what to do, but we help you assess your different choices to help you come to a decision that is best for you at a given time. We not only help students with their academics, but we also help with everything else that affects their academics. So for instance, if a student may be having issues with transitioning to college life and needs help connecting, we can talk through that. We work with many of our partner offices, and many times we refer you to our colleagues in other offices, such as those in undergraduate student life, like residential life and student engagement, and Columbia Health, like counseling and psychological services. During our one-on-one advising conversations, we can recommend some of the many resources we have within the Center for Student Advising as well, such as tutoring for some of our foundational courses like calculus and chemistry, our pre-professional advising for students who are interested in pre-med, pre-law, and pre-business, and our peer academic skills consultants who are upper class students who help other students build effective learning strategies such as time management and note-taking skills. In regards to registering for courses for your upcoming first year, first term students will be pre-registered for one course if you are in engineering and 2 core courses if you are in the college. And your academic advisor can help you decide on what other courses you will enroll in to complement those courses. It is certainly fine to be undecided right now as an incoming student. Nobody needs to know exactly what they want to study now. Nobody has to feel pressure, right? The undecided is the #1 major for students coming in. We can help select a course schedule that will allow you to still have a variety of academic options to choose from. You will be registering for your courses on Student Services Online, and we can help you navigate the registration process before you are assigned registration times on that Friday of the new student orientation program week. So all in all, we hope to get all of your advising questions answered by the time you are set to register. We look forward to the first of many more interactions in the future.
Thank you so much, Dean Carrillo.
No problem. I now have a question for you and Jocelyn. What are some of the biggest adjustments you have had to make, and what resources have you utilized on campus?
Sure. One of the biggest adjustments I thought I had to make when I came to Columbia was learning how to adapt my high school writing skills to college-style academic writing. That's definitely a challenge for a lot of students. 2 resources that I found really helpful was the Writing Center, which is an office in the Philosophy Building, where you can make writing appointments with consultants to work on essays or outlines or just talking about ideas. Wherever you are in the writing process, there's someone there who can help you talk through your ideas, who isn't your professor, so it's a different perspective. And as a part of university writing classes, students also learn how to use different library resources for research, which is great. Even though I'm very non-STEM, I have heard great things about the math department help rooms as well. That's a space for TAs to help you with your math homework, help with test prep. I've heard such great things about the TAs, and it's kind of like office hours, but bigger. And that brings me to my third suggestion, which is going to the office hours of your professors. I was so surprised at how much professors are accessible and really want to help students learn about the material. They're excited about it. And so office hours is a time when professors have designated space for you to just pop in, ask questions, maybe get more formalized help if that's what you're looking for. But I've also used office hours to go in and ask my professors about what they're researching, how I can get involved with research, tell them that I really liked the homework reading and what I can do with that. It's just, they're really welcoming spaces for you to explore your interests.
Yeah, so I second everything Emily has mentioned so far. And just to add on to that, my academic advisor supported me a lot. I met with him almost every month to discuss how I can fit all the different courses into my 4-year plan on top of fulfilling like my core, major, pre-professional, and minor requirements. I also visited the Center for Career Education, so they offer one-on-one appointments that help me refine my resume, find research opportunities, write cover letters, and even practice clubs on campus that are specific to my recruits. And I found my current research lab through a biomedical engineering PhD student at a meet and greet event.
Thank you both so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for sharing your bits of wisdom and personal stories. We're now going to move to our question and answer portion of the webinar. So we'll be referencing some of the questions you've all asked in the Q&A. Some of them we've kind of grouped together because a lot of similar questions came in. So our first question is going to be for Emily. How can students expect grades to be like during the first year? Students have heard that it's common if you've been a straight A student in high school, you'll be expecting to receive lots of C's or D's at Columbia.
Of course. So something that I think I didn't really comprehend until I was in my first year core classes, I was expecting them to be really hard, really intimidating. But the thing is, because professors are excited and want to teach first years, they know they're dealing with first years and they are there for you to help transition from high school to college. So I didn't find the grading to be super intense, like a huge wake-up call to college. It was more cooperative than that. I would go into my professor's office hours a lot. I think especially with your first year classes, if you, one, apply yourself, but also talk with your professors a lot. I think the more that I talk to professors, the better I succeed in classes, both on understanding the material and maybe even grades. Because if the professor knows you and understands your learning background, they want to help you. So I think it's all just about taking advantage of those resources that are there for you. They are there for students like you. There doesn't need to be a special circumstance for it. They are always there. And I think that's the best indicator of how your grades are going to be your first year.
Thank you, Emily. So our next question is for Jocelyn. So Jocelyn, how do students become involved in undergraduate research? Is it easily accessible for first year students?
Yeah, I can definitely talk about that. So personally, I'm involved in a wet lab research at the Columbia Medical Center. It's one of the 3 locations where most research labs are located. We also have a lot of labs on our Morningside campus and some at the Manhattanville campus, and they range anywhere from like really STEM focused to a lot of like other humanities labs. So the process that most undergraduates go through to find research is through just cold emailing professors. I would be browsing like different research initiatives through Columbia and looking at professors' bios and looking at like their lab pages and so on. And I just kind of made a list and then just emailed a bunch of professors. Eventually I got to sit down and have coffee with a few. And then eventually I decided on one professor that I really wanted to work with. In terms of getting into research as a first year, it is definitely doable. I joined my lab the spring semester of my first year, and so did a lot of my peers, but there's definitely like no pressure to start doing research as soon as you get to campus. A lot of my peers also start looking into research in their 2nd or 3rd years, or even change labs in their 4th years. So it's a really soft process.
Thank you, Jocelyn. And now I have a question for both you and Emily. So how many classes do students typically take in a semester? Is it different for Columbia College and engineering students?
I can talk about Columbia College first. I would say that students, at least everyone I knew my first year, would take anywhere from 4 to 5. I would say 5 is probably a little more common. I happen to take 4. I've always taken 4 classes because I take a language that's very intensive. And so it's pretty typical to only take 4 classes in that case. But I think your advisor is a really great resource on that because I think it depends on the classes you're taking, where 5 or 6 may be doable because there's not a huge workload, but for other classes, 4 might be the answer. And a great resource to see how many classes you think you might be taking is looking at Culpa, all the professor review sites, to see how much homework professors actually assign, or Virgil is a really good option for that too.
Yeah, so for Columbia Engineering, the typical class amount is 5 to 6 classes, but generally 5 is the recommended amount. I've always started out taking 6 classes and then decide on one course that I didn't have time for, and then just drop that course. But yeah, there's people typically take 4 to 6 classes. But like Dean Brofman said earlier, there are 5 classes that are pretty structured out for the first couple semesters. So I would just recommend going with that flow, and then through the first couple semesters, you can find how many courses you can take on in a given time.
Thank you, too. Emily, another question for you. What are some suggestions and advice for students for picking their first semester classes? How should students choose which classes to take aside from the 2 core classes?
Sure, I still wonder what classes to take sometimes, honestly. I think part of it, like I said, looking at Culpa and Virgil are really great options if you just want to see what classes might be good fits for you in terms of adjustment to college. The reason I took that Intro to Linguistics class was not because I wanted to do linguistics. I didn't know what linguistics was, but the professor had such great reviews, and everyone said that even if they weren't going to major in linguistics, they really appreciated the course. And I thought that was a good sign that that would be a course that would be a good fit for me to explore my interests. If you don't know what you want to major in and explore, I would recommend broader classes in the field. I know there are some broad social science classes, some broad math classes that can help you hone in your interests later, just because they survey a lot of different things. Something else I would recommend is talking to your advisor and just saying, these are the things I liked in high school. What would you recommend me taking? Because your advisor may not know the answer, but my advisor put me in contact with some professors, and I think it was the director of undergraduate studies, who is someone who is now a very close advisor to me, and just said, reach out to them and ask them what you should start looking at. And that was super helpful for me. Professors are super, like I said, super accessible. They just want you to take their classes, so they're a little biased, but it's really helpful to figure out what might work for you.
Thanks, Emily. So we have a question for Dean Carrillo. If you can talk a little bit about course registration, when more information about it is coming out, and when it's going to occur.
Sure. A majority of the first year students will be registering on that Friday of NSOP week. Specific times are going to be provided to all students when they log into Student Services Online and click under Reg Appointment Times. Those won't appear until about mid-August. And so you'll see your exact specific times, but you could always connect with your advising dean in the Center for Student Advising, because they'll know around the time that you are going to register. So you will be able to pre-plan your schedule using the Virgil tool, which is a registrar's tool that allows you to schedule build and to see how your classes fit together and complement with each other on a Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday schedule, as well as you can create wish lists on SSOL once your registration appointment times are available. Using those 2 tools, you can already have preset the classes that you would like to register for. Then once it is your open registration time, each student has a different open registration time on that Friday. You'll then just log on to SSOL and begin to add the classes from your wait list into your actual schedule. And then if classes are, say, full, I would say, please don't worry, do not panic, because there are wait lists for classes for sure. So instructors sometimes manage wait lists to classes, meaning maybe they first have the enrollment cap at a lower number and in order for them to be able to add students in, or they just wait for other students who are in the classes to drop the classes, and then you'll be automatically placed into the class. So I think to have a variety of options on your wish list and on Virtual as other options as a plan B certainly would be a good thing. And you'll definitely, it's guaranteed, you'll have a full set of courses that you will be satisfied with. We'll work with you to ensure that you do, and that you're happy with what you end up being enrolled in beyond the 2 or 1 course that you're pre-registered for in the fall.
Thank you, Dean Carrillo. And as a follow-up to some of your responses, and maybe Emily or someone else can feel free to jump in. If you can just describe what is Culpa and Virtual, and what are those uses?
Yeah, so sorry. I didn't know if y'all knew those terms yet. So Culpa is a site, I believe it's run by students. It's basically where it's kind of like Rate My Professor, but it's specifically Columbia students, and you can search by professor's name, you can search by their class, and it's a little outdated right now, but it definitely helps with some courses that have been around for a while. That's how I picked out my contemporary civilizations professor in my second year. That's how I found stuff about my linguistics class. It's a little sketchy of a site, but it's actually very helpful for choosing classes. Virtual it's the more formal system of looking for courses at Columbia. You can search any course for the upcoming semesters, and oftentimes they don't always work, but they have these professor evaluations that students in that class formally fill out at the end of the semester. So you can read those. Those are really helpful for looking at workload for classes. So I normally look at those and see how many hours students dedicated to those classes a week. And that helped me decide how many classes I was going to take that semester. So both are great resources. I think they serve different purposes.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily. And thank you to all of our panelists for sharing your bits of wisdom with our incoming students today. This concludes our session. I know that there are plenty of other great questions in the chat that we are unfortunately able to answer because of time. So I would encourage you all to visit the Countdown to Columbia website to look at our full schedule of Academics at Columbia themed webinars next week. And if you have any remaining questions about academics, please feel free to reach out to your academic advisor once you get your assignment. If you know of classmates who are unable to join us today, a recording of the session will be available via the Countdown to Columbia website within the next week. Future sessions will also be available via recording within a week after they happen live. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in future webinars and welcoming you to the Columbia community during new student orientation program. Have a great day, everyone. See you on campus.